Hey from New Mexico. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Mountaintop Bob from New Mexico Outdoors with Mountaintop Bob. Got that a little smoother this time. Still watching YouTube videos, and but I wanted to put one out today about this old girl right here. She's 13 years old, and as you can see, she's looking around, so she knows there's stuff out here. She hears things I don't hear. Um, You really need out here where we live a really good dog. Stay. Gypsy, no. Stay. Down right here. Nope, down. Good girl. I want you to stay here with me this morning. I don't know what's out there, but you don't need to go after it. She's getting too old to be chasing things, so, but I wanted to comment on a video that I seen on YouTube while I'm watching YouTube's learning how to do YouTube. The one that I saw that was kind of disheartening was where someone had gotten rid of an old German Shepherd dog. And right off the bat, I'm going to make a lot of people mad. There's only, in my opinion, and again, opinions are the lowest form of human intelligence, in my opinion. Anyway, there's only two kinds of dogs. There's German Shepherds and dogs that wish they were German Shepherds. Now, I've been thinking about getting a Malinois, but the more I research them, the more I find out that those dogs are a little bit too mechanical for me. They don't really think for themselves a whole lot. And for me, I need that in my dog, and German Shepherds provide that. They have a way of thinking for themselves, which is important if you're going to expect your dog to do stuff like, track things and find things. Do the things that dogs are supposed to do. I got something I'm feeling here I don't like. I hope it's just a wad of hair, which most likely it is, but it's not bothering her, not hurting her. But that's something you got to do with your old dogs. You got to feel of them a lot, make sure they ain't got no strange lumps or bumps nowhere. All right, so what it's like to have a German Shepherd dog, a high energy German Shepherd dog, and you just seen just how high energy she is, and she's still watching whatever has got her attention over there. I don't know what it is. I'm looking over my shoulder too. That's why you need a good dog out here like where we live, and German Shepherds make one of the best. But what you can expect. All right, so I got Gypsy when she was 8 weeks old. And within the first week, my mindset was, what the heck was I thinking? I was bleeding all over, had scabs. My hands and lower arms were just ate up. And young German Shepherd puppies are known, where Malinois are called Malin Gators, I think. German Shepherds are land sharks. So it took a lot of doing to get that out of her, but all right, so let's move forward. When she was first brought home, one thing she did, she gave me a look, like, I don't know exactly just what happened. That's when we put her in the van and drove out of the yard where she was raised, where she was born at. And we took her home. She had to ride 50 miles with us to get home. And then the first thing that happened was she goes in the house and she met the cats. And that was a disaster. More because of the cats than for her. She was just curious, as puppies are, but the cats were in defense mode. So one of the cats left 2 claws stuck in her nose. She hit her so hard that the cat shed those 2 claws, and they were stuck in her nose. She was a little bitty puppy. So the thing about German Shepherds, they don't forget. And so Sweetie Petey, the black cat, Gypsy's arch enemy, and she don't like cats in general, but she really hates Sweetie Petey. They're actually, at this point in their life, after going on 13 years, a couple of weeks ago, they started drinking out of the water bowl at the same time, side by side, no more aggression. As long as Sweetie Petey don't sneak up behind her or come up behind her and suddenly or something, she'll still go after her. She won't go after her. She's too old to get up and go after her, but she'll growl a little bit. So that's that. So bringing her in the house, the cats was a disaster. So if you're going to get one of these dogs, be very careful what you allow to happen in their life when they're very young. It will have a definite impact on them later on. So let's move on to the dog park. As she was growing up, saying in her first 3 months, we visited the dog park a lot. When she was a little girl, and the big dogs just picked on her and rolled her and just treated her bad. And this particular dog park close to where our business was in Florida didn't allow leashes on dogs inside the park, so nobody had control of their dogs. So one thing led to another, and she became dog aggressive. So rule number 2, be careful when you introduce your dog to your German Shepherd dog to other dogs. If it doesn't go well, it could be a lasting problem. So she's always been really protective of us when other dogs are around. She don't put up with no shenanigans out of them. If they come around, they better show their belly or the fight will be on. So I don't allow her to get around other dogs. I keep a close watch on her. And out here, it's not so bad. There are a lot of free running dogs here, and if she smells where one comes through the property, she'll tend to want to follow it and find out, make sure it's gone. Okay, so let's move on further. At about 6 months old, she was scared of her shadow. Everything that come around her, she was just more alert to it. She kind of was looking at things differently, and she became very suspicious, very, I don't know the words really to use, but I hate to say scared, but apprehensive maybe. I don't know if that's a dog word, but that's what it seemed like she was just apprehensive of everything that moved. She was not really scared of it, but she was like, more focused on the world around her or something. All right, so through this time, at 6 months old, I still didn't have a clue really to how to train this dog. All my experience has been with hunting dogs, and they all have a high instinct. The hounds have high instincts for trailing. Bird dogs have high instincts for birds. Retrievers, a high instinct for retrieving. German Shepherds, they have a high instinct for all of that. I'm serious. German Shepherds will do anything. You can teach them to do anything. Okay, so moving forward, one of the things that I heard a guy say, and he's a well-known dog trainer and training protection dogs, and he says that if you talk to your dog, it confuses them. I can't really agree with that 100%. I understand, you can confuse them with their commands. If you're giving them a command that you're expecting them to, or a prompt, some people will call it, that you're expecting them to abide by or follow or react to, then you can confuse them that way. But in the home life, if you're going to have a German Shepherd in your home, they're going to pick up on stuff. I never made any effort to teach Gypsy about going to town. You want to go to town? You want to go to town? You want to go to town? She knows. I didn't teach her a lot of things that we use in her old age now. She just picked up on them over the years. There's so many things. Well, let's move on. When I did finally figure out the training method that works the best for German Shepherds, its reward system is much better than the old style yank and crank that you use with working dogs like hunting dogs. And I wouldn't even do that now. I would still train positive reinforcement. So positive reinforcement, and then learning how to use toys for training. I'm not going to get into a lot of that. You can follow that on Michael Ellis, and there's a lot of other people around that's really well versed in this. But if you follow their advice, you can't go wrong. So let's see. I had to take the bite out of her. You have to be careful about that. If you go too far, you can get them where they won't bite, but then you can't get them to bite. It's just like for Gypsy, it was one way or the other. And once I broke her from that nasty habit of biting everything that moved around her, as a puppy. Then after that, she no longer had any bite drive. Um, what she did have, however, was a nose that they, you'll hear some people may say that when you become more interesting than dirt to a dog, you got them trained. I never became, as much as she loves me and I love her, dirt is still more interesting to her. Her nose and what she smells is way more interesting than me. They tend to become Velcro dogs. They want to just stay close to you, but not as way that people say. Now Gypsy, if I let her go right now, she'll go investigate what she's alerting on and see what that is. But I'm gonna make her stay here with me and stay down. Like I said, she's gonna be 13 if she makes it till Thanksgiving. She has had a stroke already. She can no longer get in or out of the truck by herself. I have to help her in and out, and she goes with us everywhere we go. She's with me pretty much 24/7 and has been for a number of years. Early on when I got her, I couldn't really keep her with me all the time. So training, you need, if you're not gonna, if these dogs need a lot of room. So to keep her occupied, I got a bunch of chickens and I built her I extended, as she grew up and got older, I made her pen bigger and bigger, her run. It ended up being 50 foot wide by 80 feet long. And right outside of it, I put a big chicken pen and raised a bunch of chickens. And I taught her how to catch those chickens without harming them. And that went well. She would have made someone a really great farm dog. I mean, she learned to catch small animals and never hurt them. Just hold them down till you got there. I had a German Shepherd on the farm when I was growing up that would do the same thing. She would catch rats and then expect me to come take them from her. Not. Let's see, so the one thing, let's see, what else did I want to comment? The main thing is, if you get one of these dogs, it's not a simple train them and then they stay trained. These dogs are very smart. They figure out stuff on their own. They learn things, a quick story, and they remember. So I lost track of where I was. Things that she's done for us. Well, the one thing she did, she was instrumental. I won't say instrumental, but she picked up on a situation that happened to a couple kids that I didn't realize had happened. They were at my house for a Christmas one year, and they had both of them. It was a brother and sister who had lost both their parents only a month or so before. So, and the little girl hadn't talked a whole lot since she was like 10, and the boy was like 12, and he was talkative, but you could tell he wasn't just right. But she was just way out there. And she came up to me and started talking to me more than they said that she had talked to anybody, and I didn't know why. But I had Gypsy with me, and at the time Gypsy was like 4 years old, and I wouldn't let the kids play with her because she played rough. She wouldn't hurt a kid intentionally, but she played rough. So next thing I know, this little girl's out on the front porch, sitting there with her arm wrapped around Gypsy, a lot like I'm doing now, and just talking to her. And she stayed out there a long time, and then her brother he was scared of her, so he stayed inside, but he stayed at the door watching her. So that's when I realized that she was a kid's dog. I had already trained her to find kids down on the swamp. We had lots of swamps around our property, and we had a lot of kids that come visit, and they always went down there, and I would always tell them, don't go down there, and they would anyway. So, but we never had to actually go find one, luckily, but we did a lot of training, and she loved it, and she never let me down. No kid. And I had some swamp brats, kids that grew up around there that would really try hard to hide from her. They could hide from me. She would find them, and I still wouldn't see them. But they never could hide from her. She found them every time. She actually learned how to do scent cones on her own, and this was kind of cool. This little girl she didn't want to play. She was a little 13-year-old snot, best way to put it. And but she had been at my house. She was getting on my nerves, So I put a bandana around her neck, and Gypsy hadn't seen her. Gypsy had been out in her kennel, and this little girl had been nowhere near her. So the little girl took off. I took the bandana, put it in a Ziploc, and the little girl took off. I told her where I wanted her to go. So of course she decided to go somewhere totally different because of where I told her to go, so I could maintain some idea of how well Gypsy was doing in her trailing. She goes somewhere totally different. So here we go. We're trying to go find this little girl, and Gypsy kept trying to go the wrong way, and I'm like, no, that ain't right. She's supposed to be this way, you know. So I'm all confused. I finally gave Gypsy her head, and she took us out on the pavement, went down the pavement, and then she made an abrupt left-hand turn, and about 300 yards off across the field, that little girl was standing in the edge of the tree. So she picked up her scent cone because she raised her head up and turned her head and looked right at her, and I looked where she looked, and there she was. So that's the kid thing. I could always have her lay down. I taught her to greet. I wouldn't let people walk up to her when she was on leash until I had complete control of her. If they were children, I would put her between my legs, and I would say center, and she would go between my legs, and then I would say down, and then I would kind of squat down over her back just a little bit, not set on her, but just, you know, just in case. And then I'd say, okay, let's greet, and then the little kid would come up, and they'd pet, 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 and they'd go away. Then I would make her get her to do some tricks. She did everything. She would do the high five. Anything you see on the internet that dogs do for tricks, she would do it. Give me 3 circles, I'll give you 3 treats, 3 cookies. Take these cookies in there, 3 of them, eat them on the carpet. See, she says cookies. You want a cookie? You want a cookie? Oh, hang on, let me get you one. We're gonna be out of time here pretty soon, if it ain't already went off. And I'm talking to nothing. No, it's still going. Let's just go till it dies. All right, so I don't advertise for people on my YouTube channel, but this dog, and these are the small ones, we'll do jumping jacks for them right there. And she's ate them her whole life, and her teeth are in pretty good shape, really. So I can't say nothing bad about the dentist stick. Let's see. Where was we? All right, so we moved to New Mexico. She rode with me in the back of the truck. We stayed in the motel rooms. I taught her to speak on command without a voice. I taught her a hand signal to make her bark. So if we were in a motel room, I heard something outside, and I didn't want them to know me and Susie was in the room, I could get her to bark, and they would know the dog was in there. So that was that. I spent a lot of time with her in parking lots and around cars, so she wouldn't be afraid of them, and yet she wouldn't try to chase them. And by the time she was 2 years old and we would travel, she would get out at every stop and stand by the car while we were pumping gas, or stand by the front door. And one guy says, if that dog bites me, I will sue. And I told him, well, you better stay away from her because she bites me all the time. She loved people. A black gentleman that was disabled really bad was in a motorized wheelchair at one of the stores we stopped in. He was just kind of hanging out there and wanted to pet her so bad, so we did our thing. I led her up to him. I said, okay, let's greet. She stood there and let that man just rub on her for the longest time. So that's the kind of dog she was, or is. So we moved to New Mexico from Florida. The reason we moved out here is it just got too crowded. We wanted to retire, wanted a more peaceful lifestyle, and we found it here. Wide open spaces, no noise really to speak of, lots of room. We were able to find a house and pay cash and not have a mortgage, and when we liquidated our business, we were able to pay our cars off. And so we come out here and retired and decided to live the dream and the easy life as much as possible. So that brings us back to Gypsy. We moved into this house. Had no one lived in it for a number of years. And so the grass was grown up a lot like you see it here. I keep it mowed around the house, but out here I don't worry with it. I let it go. As Navajo tradition. Plants and animals, they all have a place. So That being said, so we moved in, and on the 4th of July, within a couple of weeks, one of the cats had brought a snake in the house, and it wasn't a poisonous snake, and I was able to get rid of it easily enough, and no big deal. I'm used to snakes living in Florida. A lot of white oak snakes will end up, we've had them actually in the bed frames on the farm when we're growing up, so not real scared of them. We don't like rattlers though, and one showed up on the front porch that same very day later on, and he was a big old boy. And Gypsy stays in her kennel in the house a lot with the door open. I don't lock her in it no more. She goes in there when she wants to. These dogs have to have a place they can call home where they can go and chill and expect to be left alone, not bothered, and can just like relax. So if you're going to get one of these dogs, get a kennel right off the bat and start feeding them in it, put them in it, and for the housebreaking, when you take them out of that kennel, take them straight outside, and within a number of days you'll have them housebroken. They won't potty in the house no more. They'll know that they're supposed to go outside. All right, so the snake shows up on the porch, and Gypsy's in her kennel, and the door was open, and she alerted to it, and so I was able to do something with that poisonous snake before someone got hurt, and he's no longer around here. He's gone. Within a day or so, another one showed up on the back there, and she does her rounds every day, 2 or 3 times a day, and she goes all around the house, and she checks on everything, makes sure everything's kind of cool and kosher, which brings me to the fact that if you take your dog, no matter what age it is, when you take your German Shepherd somewhere, you need to take the time to put it on a leash. If it's a motel, if it's a campground, if it's someone's house you're going to visit, any place that's unfamiliar with that dog, you've got to take that German Shepherd on a leash around the property and let them figure out for themselves. Let them kind of get an idea about their surroundings, and then they'll settle. If you don't do that, you'll notice they're going to get more and more agitated, more and more hard to handle, more and more not wanting to listen to you. You got to do that. And we went to the Cherokee. I had to put her on a leash and let her actually walk me down the road, and she took me all over that campground. I just gave her a head and let her go, and I stayed with her. And by the time she was done, she figured out, where we was, what was going on, what was around her. Come back to our campground, she settled right down, no problems. But the first day, she was a handful until I took her and gave her a head and let her go. So that being said, she does that now. She'll mark she goes around our territory, and if she sees anything, she alerts it to me and lets me know. Just like a while ago, earlier in the video, she was looking over her shoulder, still looking back that way. So they're really cool to have, but anybody like me, you're going to get so attached, and you start humanizing them. And when they start learning to do stuff just by you using a sentence instead of a word, when you say, "Why don't you lay down before you fall down?" and they do. Going to the shack, you want to go, and she'll get up and go, or maybe not. Those sort of things. They start finding their niche in your home. They figure out so many things. There's no way I can go into it, but so for the people out there that would let one of these dogs go because they're just not fun anymore, I would say to you, these dogs have a lot to give and a lot to offer right up to their last day. Even today, if Gypsy smells something come through this property, she'll go see what it is. She lets me know. She don't bark at people coming up in the yard. She don't let them know so much that she's here and around, but she's alert to them, and she watches them. And the people that she likes, she just always goes straight out to them, tail wagging, and jumping up on people. Let's talk about that real quick. Don't do the knee thing. Don't, be aggressive towards them when they do that. Let them do it. But right off the bat, you want to teach sit down and stay. And so when they start jumping up, you say sit. And then Susie uses 4 on the floor, and Gypsy will acknowledge 4 on the floor after almost 13 years. She knows what that means. So after a while, they'll figure out that they're not supposed to jump up on people, because every time they do, you're gonna make them sit, and then make that person pet them the minute they sit. And so then the next thing that happens is, the person comes in the house, they'll run up to them and sit looking for that pet. Whereas if when they were jumping up on them, that person was looking frightened and backing up and saying, "Oh, you know." So you change that routine for them in a positive manner, and before you know it, they're running up to your neighbors or your people, and they sit looking for them to pet them on the head. But you got to tell them people, "All right, now pet that dog." So let's see, feed, water. Don't give it to them. Never give a German Shepherd food. Never give them water. Unless you make them do something for it. That was one of the things I learned that really made a big difference in our learning to get along in the home. We'll get back to the food in a minute, but so when I put her food down, she had to do something for it. A sit, down, stay, something. And whenever her water bowl ran out and she let me know it was out and she wanted water, and I would do this intentionally, not to make the dog go thirsty or nothing. I kept plenty of water, but I would always let her drink it down, and then I would put the bowl down or leave it down, and then when she would acknowledge the fact that she needed water inside the house. Now outside, she always had water 24/7, never without, because it's hot. But inside, I would use the water actually for training a little bit. Anything that I could put in a bowl, I made her do something before I put the bowl down. So food. Some dogs are food aggressive. Gypsy was not. I was lucky that way, but I have had dogs in the past who were. And what I learned is there's no sense in smacking them when they try to bite you for sticking your hand in their bowl. But you got to break them from that. And how you do that is right off the bat, when you get that dog, you start putting stuff in their bowl while they're eating that they like better than the food in the bowl. You have to be careful early on not to get bit when you're trying to place something in that bowl, but at some point you got to get that dog to understand anytime your hand goes to that bowl, it's for the good. It's something good is going to happen. So I hand fed her a lot early on. I kept dog food in front of her 24/7 when she was for her first 6 months, and we fed her in the house. When I would put dog food down for her in the evenings, because she would always eat everything through the day. She's always been a healthy eater, believe me. So I would find something like a treat that she really likes, or a piece of chicken, or some leftovers off our plate, or anything, and put it in her dog food bowl with my hand. And soon enough, they figure out, that is a good thing. There's no sense in me being aggressive about it. Let's move on. What else? At some point, they get older, and they don't do things as fast. They don't do them as good, as quick. They might be a little slow to get up. You got to watch for that, and that's when you stop telling them to sit down and stay so much. It becomes uncomfortable for them, so why make them do something that, I don't know, I just don't make her do it. The only thing I will do with her is I'll tell her, why don't you lay down before you fall down? And she generally does. Or if I need her to stay in one spot, I will. But for just general purposes, out working and training, I don't train no more. Our training days are over. So you got to be at a point by the time they're 4 years old where you got real good control of the dog, you got a real good rapport with your dog, and you've learned your communication between you and your dog. And Michael Ellis will teach you that. There's some other fellers out there that's really good at that. It's basically, the basics is and it's hard to do. You need to practice it before you start trying to do it with your dog. You hold the treat over their head until their butt hits the ground. When their butt hits the ground, you say sit, give the treat. Say sit, yes, give the treat. So the hard part is after 3 or 4 times, you're going to say sit, then the dog's butt's going to hit the ground. You're going to say yes, give the treat. Or use a clicker. Now, Gypsy ate her clicker. I mean, I was letting the dog trainer that, and I don't suggest dog trainers, I suggest go on the internet and learn it. Because all the dog trainer is going to do is teach you what you learn on the internet, and you're going to pay maximum money for it. And then they're going to want to teach you, well, you shouldn't play tug. Baloney. Tug is one of the greatest training tools you're going to have with a big, high-energy dog. And they always say, well, if the dog gets something that, like something belongs to your wife and you're playing and it tears it up. Well, no, you teach the dog to leave it or let go, whatever word you want to use. And that, you gets it, you get a hold of it, leave it, they turn it loose, you teach that. And that you teach that playing tug. If you don't teach that, it don't matter whether you play tug with them or not. At some point, that dog's going to want attention, it's going to get hold of something, you're going to try to get it from them. If you don't have a command to get that object, it's likely it's going to get torn up, especially in the jaws of one of these things. All right, so tug is a very, very important tool in your toolbox. Let's see, what else? Barbed wire. And can't go there because I was training her to be able to be on the end of the leash while we were actually out in search of some child or something that was lost. The first thing that happened, not the first thing, but something that did happen, is she actually did get tangled up in some barbed wire. And she was and that's the thing about German Shepherds, they're smart. They kind of look at their situation and figure out what's going on before they make, Anyway, so she got calm when she got in, and I said, barbed wire, nope, where you going? You gotta go? What's the matter? All right, go on. Don't knock my camera over. What are you smelling out there? Don't knock my camera over. What are you alerting to? There ain't nothing out there. The horses are over there. Don't knock my camera over. Over here. Come here. Hey, Gypsy, come. Over here. Over here. Come on. All right. Well, I guess she's tired of laying, and I'm going to finish this video up real quick. She's alerted on something. And that's the thing. I mean, 12 and a half years old or more, whatever it is, and she's still a fantastic dog, and she still does everything that she's supposed to do, and she's very alert as to what goes on around me and Susie and the cats or whatever. You gonna come back over here? Come this way, around here. Come on, around here. Over here. Come here. Hey, come on, come around here. Right here. There we go, down right there. That girl. Now see, all that, she had to get up and see what's going on. How could you throw one of these guys away, one of these dogs away, just because they're 9 years old and they don't want to play Frisbee no more? She'd still fight for me. We've had to fight dogs together more than once. Here in New Mexico, there's a lot of, they call them res dogs, reservation dogs, and they pretty much run loose, as do some of their horses and stuff. So we get a lot of stuff come through here. And we were attacked out on a hike, the last hike we went on. I don't take her no more because of it. And 2 dogs came up. There was a little guy, he thought he wanted to be the alpha dog. He turned tail and ran right away. But the big dog, he made an effort, and Gypsy let him know right away she wasn't taking nothing. She wasn't running. She was standing up. She got between me and it went away. So there was no blood or nobody got hurt, but she stood her ground. And Then we were up on the mountain, up on in the Cibola Mountains, up in the Zuni Mountains, and again we were attacked, and that dog actually bit. And so when it bit, Gypsy bit, and I literally had to put my foot on the attacker. I don't know where he come from. He come from nowhere, out of nowhere, and pull her off of him and put her in the truck, and then he went away. There was other people up there, and they just turned their dogs out and let them go. I always keep Gypsy on the leash. I don't let her run free, and I would never intentionally allow her to get in a situation where she could be harmed. So that happened. And then the two snakes, I think I told that story. There was a snake on the front porch, a rattler, and she alerted us to that from inside the house, and then she alerted us to another snake in the backyard, and we haven't seen any more. That was the only two we seen. All right, so this is my video about my dog Gypsy. This is my video about why I personally could never take my dog and rehome her, or take her to the pound, or relinquish her, or put her down, or anything like that. She's just been such a valuable member of my family. The few occasions over the last 10 years when I would be really sick or injured, and I was in an accident where I did get injured, she's been there for me. She would lay her head on me. She let me know that she cared. She knew that it was not a time to play. She picks up on that. That's the thing about a German Shepherd, and I don't think you're going to get that in a Malinois. So I think I'm going to avoid the Malinois as much as I wanted one, because they're so high energy, and I could just imagine training one of those guys. But I just don't feel like that with all their great points. I think the bad point is, the guy explained it, that if you throw a frisbee off of a cliff, a Malinois would jump out and grab that frisbee while he's falling to his death and be wagging his tail because he has it. A German Shepherd run up to the edge of the cliff and say, "Who the hell are you trying to, what are you thinking? I ain't going after that," you know. So, and I like that. I want my dogs to have enough sense about them not to jump off a cliff just because somebody threw a frisbee. And I seen a guy actually take his dog out where there was a cliff, and the dog went right off the cliff, just, you know, for whatever reason, and down in a river. He had to go down to get it, you know, a Malinois. So I'm going to stick with the German Shepherds. I understand them, I know them, I grew up with them. My grandmother had them always, full-blooded German Shepherds. The banker down the road from my father's business in Cocoa, Florida, had a German Shepherd that he actually sent his money to the, it wasn't a banker, it was another type of business, but he sent his money to the bank every day. When he would get a certain amount, he'd put it on that dog would go down there, the banker would take that money and put the receipt back, the dog would go back to the business, lay down in the floor. German Shepherd. My grandmother used to send her German Shepherd after her kids by name. Go get AV, the dog would go get him, get him by the shirt sleeve, and he was coming back with him one way or another. Didn't matter. She had 9 boys and girls, and that dog would retrieve them by name. And then I was real little, I barely remember that dog. And then the lady that took care of us, our babysitter, Grammy, she had a German Shepherd at her house, and we stayed at her house a lot. And that dog, it didn't matter what you threw or where you threw it, it always brought it back. And that dog played with us all the time. Big old German Shepherd, male dog, kept an eye on us. It was more of our babysitter than Grammy was. So, and then girl on the farm, I didn't want that dog. Dad brought her home, and I had hound dogs. I trained hunting dogs, and that's what I was all about, was hunting deer and coons and hound dogs and bird dogs. So I had a kennel with hound dogs and another kennel with a couple of bird dogs, and that's what I worked with, and that's what I understood. And so I got these 2 black and tan hound dog puppies, and I'm trying to train them on rabbits before the school bus run every morning. And so we would always have an hour and a half or 2 hours to play with the dog. So me and my friend down the road, and then Girl, the German Shepherd, would follow us wherever we went. And I was like trying to get her to stay home. I thought she was in the way, but I kept pointing at these bushes and trying to coax these hound dogs to go in there, because I knew a rabbit would probably be in there, and jump that rabbit and pick up that scent and start trailing. Well, girl picked up on it right away, and she'd go right in those bushes, and if there was a rabbit in there, she'd run it out. Then them hound dogs would take off and they get it, and she'd come back to me. Quick story: we got tangled up with the coon that didn't run one time, and there was a fight. And we didn't have no kind of gun or nothing. And the little hound dogs, they were about 9 months old or so. They had been ripped to shreds, and I didn't think they would survive it. It's a big old coon. He did some serious damage. And I kicked the coon. The coon started to attack me instead of going away. And that German Shepherd killed that coon like in 2 seconds flat. It was, and shook her head a couple times, and he was a dead coon. German Shepherds, baby. I love them. So I'm going to finish this off with saying that, again, there's only 2 kinds of dogs in the world: German Shepherds and dogs that wish they were German Shepherds. And that's my opinion. And let's see, I need to try to figure out a way to finish these videos in a smooth fashion. So thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. This is Mountaintop Bob with New Mexico Outdoors, and I will catch everybody later. I will miss you.